On my 30th birthday, my mother-in-law gave me a divorce letter as my birthday gift from the family. The divorce papers hit my birthday cake at exactly 8:47 p.m., 30 candles still burning. My mother-in-law, Misty, slid the manila envelope across the table with a smile that could cut glass. "Happy birthday, sweetie. This is from all of us." Stanley got his phone out, recording my face, waiting for me to shatter, waiting for the tears, the begging, the breakdown they can laugh about later. Instead, I picked up the pen and signed my name. "Thank you," I told them. "This is perfect timing." I walked out, leaving them stunned, because they had no idea what they just handed me. They thought they'd destroyed me. They had no idea I'd been planning this for 8 months. If you want to see exactly how this revenge story unfolds, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. But first, tell me in the comments, what would you have done if your own family humiliated you on your birthday? Would you have signed those papers? Or would you have fought back right there in the restaurant? Because trust me, my real fight was just beginning. I'm Evelyn. I'm 30 years old as of today. Was married to Stanley Ryan for 4 years, 3 months, and 16 days. But who's counting, right? Here's what you need to know about me. I'm a forensic accountant. That means when companies think someone's stealing from them, they call me. When the FBI needs to track dirty money through shell companies and offshore accounts, they call me. I find things people desperately don't want found. It's not just my job. It's who I am. And here's the thing about people like me. We don't get emotional. We get even. And I'd been preparing for this exact day for 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. You see, I knew about those divorce papers 3 weeks ago. Stanley left them on his home printer, the same printer connected to my laptop, the same printer that automatically saves every document to our shared cloud drive. Stanley never was good with technology. For a man who made millions in real estate, he couldn't figure out basic cybersecurity. The moment I saw "petition for dissolution of marriage" in our shared folder, I knew the game had changed. So I started playing by different rules. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I ended up married to a man who would humiliate me on my birthday for entertainment. I met Stanley 5 years ago at a charity fundraiser in Manhattan. I was 25, fresh out of my master's program, working 16-hour days at a mid-tier accounting firm. He was 32, devastatingly handsome, driving a Porsche, wearing a watch that cost more than my annual salary. Stanley was everything I wasn't. Confident where I was cautious, wealthy where I was scraping together rent money, connected where I was completely alone in a city of 8 million people. He swept me off my feet in that way that only happens in movies. Expensive dinners, weekend trips to the Hamptons, flowers delivered to my office every Friday. Within 6 months, I was living in his penthouse. Within a year, I had a ring on my finger and a new last name. And Misty, in the beginning, she was perfect. Welcoming, warm, always asking about my work, my family, my dreams. She threw me a bridal shower that cost more than my childhood home was worth. She insisted I call her mom. I should have known it was too good to be true. The Ryan family had money. Old money. The kind of wealth that gets passed down through generations, along with the unshakable belief that some people simply matter more than others. And they made sure I knew, in 1,000 subtle ways, that I didn't belong. I grew up in a trailer park in Ohio. My mom cleaned offices at night and waited tables during the day. My dad left when I was 7. I worked 3 jobs through college: dishwasher, tutor, and weekend receptionist at a law firm, just to pay for textbooks and ramen noodles. The Ryans knew all of this, of course, but in the beginning, they treated it like it was charming. "Oh, Evelyn's so hardworking," Misty would say at dinner parties. "She really knows the value of $1. Like I was their pet project, their charity case who'd married up. I thought love would be enough. I thought if I just tried harder, worked smarter, proved my worth, they'd eventually accept me as family. I was naive. The changes started small. Misty would forget to invite me to family gatherings, then apologize profusely when Stanley brought it up. "Oh honey, I just assumed you'd be too busy with work to want to come to brunch with the ladies." Stanley began making little comments about my clothes, my accent, the way I held my fork. "It's not wrong, babe, it's just different from how we do things." always with a smile, always wrapped in concern. Family photos got rearranged on mantels. Suddenly, I was cropped out of group shots or positioned just slightly outside the family circle. Wedding photos disappeared from prominent spots, replaced with pictures of Stanley's ex-girlfriend from college. The one with the trust fund and the pedigree. They excluded me from business discussions, even though numbers and finances were literally my expertise. When I'd offer insights about investments or tax strategies, Misty would pat my hand and say, "That's sweet, dear, but let's leave the big decisions to the people who understand these things." And Stanley, the man who'd once told me I was the smartest woman he'd ever met, slowly began treating me like I was stupid. He'd explain basic concepts to me like I was a child. He'd correct me in front of his friends. He'd make jokes about my background, my education, my family, always followed by, "I'm just kidding, babe, you know I love you." But here's what Stanley and Misty never understood about me. I'm good at my job. Really good. My job is following money trails, uncovering patterns, finding discrepancies that other people miss. And the Ryan family? They had a lot of money. Money that moved in very interesting ways. Money that left very interesting paper trails. Money that told a very different story than the one they'd been telling me. It started with our joint checking account showing irregular transfers, 50,000 here, 75,000 there. Always with explanations that sounded reasonable. Property development costs, babe, or mother needed help with her foundation expenses. But I'm a forensic accountant. I don't just look at the numbers, I look at the patterns. And these patterns were screaming. I started digging deeper into Stanley's real estate empire. What I found made my blood run cold. Stanley wasn't just siphoning money from our accounts. He was washing dirty money through fake real estate transactions. Properties that existed only on paper. Sales to buyers who didn't exist. Millions of dollars flowing through the Ryan family business like water through a broken dam. And Misty? Sweet, concerned Misty who just wanted what was best for the family? She wasn't just mean, she was the mastermind. Every snide comment, every subtle insult, every way she made me feel small, it wasn't just cruelty, it was a strategy. She was systematically breaking me down so I'd never look too closely at their books. The Ryan family business was nothing but an elaborate front for a money laundering operation. Real estate was just the vehicle. The actual business was washing cash for people who preferred to stay in the shadows. They weren't just trying to get rid of me because I didn't belong in their precious family. They were scared of me. Terrified, actually, because they'd made one crucial mistake. Stanley married a forensic accountant. I found offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, shell companies registered in Delaware that existed only to move money. Fraudulent transactions totaling over $8 million in the past 2 years alone. And then it hit me like a freight train. Stanley didn't marry me despite my profession. He married me because of it. Who better to have as a wife than someone whose job it is to investigate financial crimes? Who would ever suspect the forensic accountant's family of money laundering? I was their perfect cover story, their insurance policy, their get-out-of-jail-free card. The family had been planning to divorce me before I could discover too much. But they waited too long. By the time they decided I was a liability, I'd already found everything. For 8 months, I'd been secretly documenting every transaction, every forged signature, every fake business deal. I copied hard drives while Stanley slept. I photographed documents during family dinners when everyone was distracted. I recorded conversations using an app on my phone. I let them think I was the broken little wife who just couldn't quite fit in with their sophisticated lifestyle. I played the part perfectly. Quiet, insecure, grateful for any scraps of acceptance they threw my way. Meanwhile, I was working with my college friend Faith, who happened to be a special agent with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Faith and I had stayed close since graduation, and when I brought her what I'd found, she knew we had something big. I'd been setting up my own financial safety nets too. Separate accounts they didn't know about, documentation stored in 3 different locations. Backup plans for my backup plans. They thought they were playing chess, moving me around the board like a pawn they could sacrifice when convenient. I was playing 4D chess, and I was already 10 moves ahead. The divorce papers were actually their biggest mistake. By filing for divorce, Stanley had to disclose all marital assets. Every account, every property, every business venture. He just handed the FBI a roadmap to his entire criminal enterprise. The morning after my birthday dinner, I sat in a coffee shop across the street from Ryan Properties, watching through the window with my laptop open and Faith on speed dial. At exactly 6 a.m., 12 black SUVs pulled up to the building. FBI agents in tactical gear pour out like ants from a disturbed nest. Simultaneously, I watched them surround Stanley and Misty's house 3 blocks away through the security cameras I'd been monitoring for months. My phone rang. Stanley, calling frantically. "Evelyn, what did you do? There are FBI agents everywhere. They're tearing apart the office. They have warrants." "I signed your divorce papers, remember? You got it on video." "This isn't funny. They're freezing our accounts. They're seizing properties. What did you tell them?" "I told them the truth, Stanley, something you apparently forgot how to do years ago." Through my laptop, I watched Misty being arrested in her silk bathrobe, screaming at agents as they read her Miranda rights. Stanley's assets are frozen, properties seized, business accounts locked down. 8 years of financial crimes unraveling in a single morning. The divorce papers Stanley prepared actually made everything easier for the FBI. All those asset disclosures he'd been required to file? They'd just confessed to every crime on paper. If you want to see exactly how this whole operation gets taken down, smash that subscribe button. Because the courtroom scenes are about to get intense. 6 months later, I sat in the witness stand of the Southern District Federal Courthouse, looking directly at Stanley and Misty for the first time since that night at Le Bernardin. Stanley's lost 30 pounds. His $5,000 suits have been replaced with an orange jumpsuit. Misty's perfectly styled hair is gray at the roots now, her designer handbag swapped for handcuffs. The prosecution called me as their key witness. For 3 hours, I walked the jury through every transaction, every forged document, every shell company the Ryan family used to wash dirty money. I explained how they created fake buyers for properties that didn't exist. How they inflated real estate values to justify massive cash payments. How they used their legitimate business as cover for moving money that came from drug trafficking, arms dealing, and human smuggling. The defense tried to paint me as a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge, but numbers don't lie. Bank records don't have emotions. Wire transfers don't hold grudges. When I was done testifying, the courtroom was silent. Even the judge looked stunned by the scope of what the Ryan family had built. During sentencing, Stanley was allowed to make a final statement. He looks directly at me, tears streaming down his face. "I loved you, Evelyn. I really did love you." I stood up in that courtroom, something I'm not supposed to do. But the bailiff doesn't stop me. "No, Stanley. You loved the idea of me. You loved having a forensic accountant as a wife because it made your crimes look legitimate. You loved the cover story I provided. You loved that no one would suspect a money laundering operation run by people married to someone whose job is catching money launderers." I paused, making sure he heard every word. "But you never loved me. If you had loved me, you wouldn't have spent 4 years making me feel worthless. You wouldn't have turned my birthday into a public humiliation. You wouldn't have married me just to use my reputation as a shield for your crimes." The judge bangs his gavel, but I'm not finished. "What you loved was control. What you loved was feeling superior. What you loved was having someone to look down on while you committed felonies with my unknowing help." Stanley breaks down completely, sobbing into his hands. Judge Morrison, no relation to my ex-husband thankfully, delivers the sentences. Misty got 15 years in federal prison, conspiracy to commit money laundering, wire fraud, tax evasion, and running a continuing criminal enterprise. No parole for the first 8 years. Stanley got 11 years. His cooperation with investigators earned him a slightly lighter sentence, but 12 years is still 12 years. As the bailiff leads them away, Misty turns back one last time. The woman who spent 4 years making me feel like I wasn't good enough, wasn't smart enough, wasn't worthy enough to be part of her family. "You destroyed everything," she hisses at me. "No," I reply. "I just stopped pretending I didn't see what you were doing." I walked out of that courthouse completely free for the first time in years. Not just legally free. Emotionally free. Mentally free. Free from the weight of trying to earn love from people who were never capable of giving it. Free from wondering if I was crazy for feeling like something was wrong. Free from questioning my own instincts. Free from making myself smaller to fit into spaces that were never meant for me. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division offered me a job that day. Agent Faith walked up as I was leaving the courthouse and handed me a business card. "We could use someone with your skills," she said. "Someone who knows how to find the truth when everyone else is telling lies." I looked back at the courthouse one last time, thinking about the woman who'd walked into that restaurant 6 months ago. The woman who'd been so desperate for acceptance that she'd ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every instinct telling her something was wrong. That woman was gone. In her place was someone who'd learned the most important lesson of her life. Sometimes the best gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they really are. Even if they wrap it in divorce papers and serve it with a birthday cake. I sat in my new apartment in Brooklyn, unpacking the last box of books. It's a one-bedroom place with exposed brick walls and windows that actually let in sunlight. Nothing like the sterile penthouse I shared with Stanley, where every surface was chosen by an interior designer and nothing ever felt like home. This place is mine. Bought with my own money. My name on the deed. My choice of paint colors. My books are on the shelves. They gave me divorce papers as a cruel joke, wrapped in humiliation and served with a side of public embarrassment. They thought they were destroying me in the most devastating way possible. But those papers gave me something priceless. My freedom. And a $2.3 million reward from the FBI for exposing the largest money laundering ring the Southern District had prosecuted in over a decade. The reward money came through last week. Stanley and Misty's criminal enterprise had been operating for 8 years, washing over $50 million in dirty money. The FBI had been trying to crack this case for 3 years before I walked into their office with boxes of evidence. Agent Faith told me they'd never seen documentation that thorough, that organized, that damning. 8 months of methodical evidence gathering had handed them the case of their careers. I used part of the reward money to buy this apartment. The rest? I started my own forensic accounting firm, specializing in financial crimes. Turns out, there are a lot of people out there who need someone to follow money trails lead to dark places. I've got 3 cases lined up already. A tech startup whose CFO might be embezzling. A charity whose donations seem to disappear. A divorce case where the husband claims he's broke while living in a mansion. People think they can hide money, manipulate numbers, and create elaborate lies. But money always leaves a trail, and I'm very good at following trails. Today marks exactly 1 year since that night at Le Bernardin. 1 year since Misty slid those divorce papers across the table. 1 year since Stanley recorded what he thought would be my breakdown. I bought myself a small chocolate cake from the bakery downstairs. Nothing fancy. No 30 candles. Just 1 candle for the new life I'm building. As I lit it, I thought about the woman I was a year ago. So desperate to belong somewhere that she ignored every warning sign. So afraid of being alone that she stayed in a marriage that was slowly killing her spirit. That woman thought love meant accepting cruelty. Thought family meant earning your place through suffering. Thought being chosen was more important than choosing yourself. I was wrong about a lot of things, but I was right about the most important thing. I didn't break. I calculated, I planned, I executed. And when they tried to destroy me, I destroyed them back. Legally, methodically, and completely. I blew out my candle and made a wish. Not for love, not for acceptance, not for someone else to complete me. I wish for more cases like Stanley and Misty. More criminals who think they're smarter than everyone else. More people who need to learn that money trails don't lie, numbers don't have emotions, and forensic accountants don't give up. Because that birthday dinner, that public humiliation, that envelope full of divorce papers, best 30th birthday gift I ever received. Trust me, nothing irritates your enemies more than seeing you thrive after they thought they'd broken you. If this story taught you anything about trusting your instincts and never letting anyone make you feel small, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I've got more stories about justice, revenge, and what happens when underestimated people fight back.